Okay, here's 3 quick tips to make your MIDI swing harder. Number 1, first thing you're going to do is quantize your MIDI. It seems counterintuitive, but it's going to give us a nice bass line to start from, and we're going to make tweaks to it. So you can see in here I have our library La Clarinet on rows loaded, and I just played a quick phrase in. Sounds like this. Okay, and obviously I'm going to play this most of the time back in Smart Delay. Before we do that, let's talk about how we're going to quantize things. So in Logic here, I like to see, the 12th note is what a lot of these DAWs call it, which is really just eighth note triplet. So you can see for every beat you've got 3 subdivisions. So it's subdividing it into 3 beats. And a lot of times I'll just start with quantizing everything by that triplet. So eighth note triplet. And so you can see here it's done this. I also like to do a quick makes it a monophonic melody. Just kind of keeps everything in line so we can see it. So now here it totally quantized. And maybe we'll start playing it back in Smart Delay so we can hear it sounding real nice. It sounds like this. Okay, so the number one mistake people do is they just kind of set the eighth note triplet swing and then they leave it and it sounds really bad. So, how much the eighth notes are swung is related to a lot of things, but one of the biggest things it's related to is the tempo. So if this tempo were much faster, it's the faster it is, the stranger it starts to sound with this triplet. You can see it just kind of has a really, very hokey sound. So, so I might bring it down just a little bit. And the first thing I can do, Logic has this really cool thing which it calls swing. These different swing eighth note options. And basically what they are is variations of how far to the triplet it takes it. So this would be like the straight eighth note, and then here's the triplet eighth note. So we can see what it'll do. With the first one, it moves it almost all the way. So if I put this on eighth note, you can see it is all the way. Swing A is just a straight eighth note. So that's interesting. Maybe it depends on the tempo. And then as you get further down, A, B, C, D, E, it gets closer and closer to the triplet, even going past the triplet. So this is like uber. So that's a certain kind of sound. But in general, I'm going to say 70 to 80% of the time, you're going to want it somewhere in the middle. So if you can see this right here, so it's not quite all the way to the straight eighth note, right? It's somewhere between the straight eighth note and the triplet. So it's not here, it's not here, it's here. And the swing C in Logic tends to just sound really good. I like it for a lot of kind of middle of the range tempo, like middle of the road tempos. So that's your number one thing. It's gonna add a lot of, that's gonna make it sound so much better to make it not quite that full triplet swing, which tends to sound hokey. Number 2, the next thing you're going to do is deal with the accents. So the way it's accented is a big part of the way it swings. So for our libraries, we kind of have a little bit of a cheat here. On the control panel, you have swing accent, which is how hard it's doing this. But we're going to take that off for now. And I'm just going to put this on key velocity and kind of show you what's happening under the hood. So one of the best things you can do to make it sound good is to accent the higher notes and de-emphasize the lower notes. So there's kind of a funny little trick where you can almost mirror the shape of the MIDI with the velocity. So if I'm on velocity dynamics here. So if I just take it and I kind of make it look like Seems funny, but it actually sounds really good. Make it kind of look like, see how I kind of matched the arc of this. And so let's check it out. So you can hear that you want these to be accented. So that's kind of a quick fix that you can kind of just mirror the shape of the contour. And then you can do other things like, if you accent the first note and the last note of every phrase also. So I might turn the last note and the first note up a little bit. That usually makes it swing a little bit better. So little things like that. In Smart Delay, I would just put it on mod wheel and turn the swing accent on, and it's going to ignore these on here, and you can hear how it sounds. So it's also de-emphasizing some of these lower notes for different reasons. There's all kinds of rules in there, so it gets a little bit more complicated than that. But if you don't have the Smart Delay, you can, like I say, you can do a quick one with just kind of mirroring the shape. And the number 3 thing you can do, this is a big one, and it's super simple. Once you get it all sorted and all the MIDI tweaked, you're going to take everything, and might seem obvious, but you're just going to move it back a little bit. Like a little bit. Really, that might even have been too much. The MIDI instruments, they tend to be on top, obviously they're recorded and everything's cut, so everything lands right where the user plays it. But generally, players don't play that way. It depends on the tempo, obviously, and sometimes if you want something to feel more energetic, you could put it on the front side. But in general, in jazz and even pop stuff, it feels good for it to just be a little bit behind. So here it is with a little bass and drum accompaniment. So our 3 tips, quantize and then adjust the 8th notes so they're not quite all the way to a triplet swing, somewhere between a straight 8th and a triplet. And dealing with the accents, so it's accenting the higher notes and taking the whole MIDI track and just nudging it back a touch. Here's what it sounds like. Click this video here to see more tips on how to make realistic jazz tracks in your DAW. Thanks.